Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio, episode 89. I'm April Perry, and at Learn, Do, Become, we help people who are drowning in the details of their personal or professional lives to create simple systems so we can all do what matters most. Today's podcast is about how to extract, establish, and execute next actions. And this is lesson number 6 of our step-by-step home organizing party. We have had so much fun so far, and all of the lessons are embedded here in the podcast. So if you go to your favorite podcast player, or just go to learndobecome.com/party to sign up, where we have all the links, the printouts, the bonuses, everything all together. This party is here for you because we want you to have clear space, a calm life, and we want you to do the things that are absolutely essential for you so you can clear your life of clutter, clear your homes of clutter, and be able to create really your ideal life. Not that any life doesn't have problems, but we can actually get to the point where we wake up excited and we go to bed content. All of the details that I'm going to talk about today are going to be on our show notes page at learndobecome.com/episode 89. Okay, so let's dive in and let's talk about next actions. Next action is a term that I learned in the book Getting Things Done, written by David Allen. And this was, I think, back in 2007 when I first read the book. But what I loved is that he taught me that it is the next specific, visible activity that will lead your project toward completion. Now, when I learned that, I thought, wow, that sounds really great. But I didn't really know how it was going to work until I learned how to apply it. Now, the beauty of a next action is it helps you to extract tasks from emails, from piles of paper, from piles of stuff that might be in a drawer or a closet. It even helps you move forward on things that are just kind of weighing on your mind. Like you're thinking, oh, I really need to get that done sometime. A lot of times you have hundreds of things sitting in your head, things you know you should do or know you want to do or know you need to do, but it never feels like the right time. So you just kind of push it to the back of your mind where it continues to cycle over and over and over again. If right now you're having a hard time even focusing on this podcast, or you have a hard time, let's say if your family's sitting down to dinner, to actually listen to what other people are saying, or if you find even if you were to sit down and relax, that your mind is going in a million directions, maybe you have a hard time falling asleep, even if you were like getting a massage or something, your brain would still be all over the place. If that's you right now and you're thinking, well, isn't that normal? Well, it is normal, but it doesn't have to be. And that's what learning how to handle next actions has done for me. And today we're going to talk about specific ways you can implement this in your life. I have a lot going on in my life, just like you do in yours. We have 4 children. We run a business from home. We are very involved in the community. We're trying to live really good, healthy lives. And we have problems too that we have to deal with because we're human. And so I get it. Sometimes you feel like, this is crazy. And I grew up in so many piles of clutter. I grew up not even understanding what a next action was. But when I learned how to make it work in my life, it changed my life. And today I want to help you to do that. So as far as extracting next actions, that's the first segment of this podcast. This is about the skill of being able to pull out a next action and be able to look at something and say, okay, what is that thing I need to do? Okay. Then establishing the next action, that's where we actually put them on a specific list. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then executing the next actions is how we actually get things done. Because a lot of you may be thinking, well, I know how to make a list, but then my list just gets longer and longer or just sits there. So I want to talk about that for a moment. So I'm just going to go through each of those briefly. Then I'm going to share some community tips that came from our Steps to Everyday Productivity Facebook group. We asked them, hey, what's working for you with next actions? And then I'm going to answer a few questions that came from the group where I felt like, hey, if they want some clarification on this, I bet other people do too. So we'll dive in and do that. All right, so let's start at the extracting. Extracting a next action. Essentially, you're going to pick up an item. So it can be either the top piece of paper in an inbox or your top email or the first thing in your closet, okay? Don't go sorting through and find one you like. Just pick one, okay? The first one, because we're going to process it before we move on. That's one of the main principles I learned from David Allen as well. You don't sort through and kind of pick. You just start from the top and you move your way through, all right? So I want you open your email right now. Find what is that top email. Now, there's a chance that that email doesn't require any action. Maybe you can delete it. Maybe you can file it. Maybe it's just spam and you're going to mark it as spam or you're going to unsubscribe. That's fine. But there's a chance that that email actually does require an action. And let's just create a little scenario. Let's say that you have a meeting next Wednesday, and the person with whom you're having the meeting sends you an email and says, for our meeting next Wednesday, I'd like you to come prepared with these 2 pieces of research. Great. Now, what happens often is people are checking their email multiple times during the day. They get something like that. They know they can't delete it, and they know they need to do something about it. So they just kind of leave it in the inbox and they think, oh, I'll get back to it soon, but the meeting's not till next Wednesday, so I've got time. But then what happens is every time you open your email, you're like scanning through, and there's a chance you might even forget about that email until it's right before the meeting and you think, oh, wait, hang on, I was supposed to do something. And then you're scrolling through your emails trying to find the one where the assignment was made. Am I right? Okay, so instead what we're going to do is we are going to extract the tasks. What I would do is either say, all right, can I do that research right now? Is it like 2 minutes or less? And I can just put these things together, stick the information into Evernote, or I use Asana, asana.com. Could I just do that right now and get it done? Chances are I can, so I'll do that. But if it's a little more detail, then I might think, okay, this is actually going to go on my calendar where I have time to work on it. Let's say Monday. Monday, I always have work time. This is something I can do then. I would go ahead and just put that on my calendar for Monday. Then I would file that email. And there's a variety of ways to file it. I'm going to get into that right now. But that way, I know I'm going to see it pop up on Monday. My brain can rest. Same thing, if you go into a closet and you see this random bag and you're like, I don't know if I want to keep that bag or not. Well, the next action is to decide, am I keeping this bag? Am I not keeping this bag? And if you decide, yes, I want to keep it for a while longer, great. Well, where does it belong? Where it won't bug me and I won't have to think about it. And then I can reassess. Or if you decide, you know what, I'm going to check with my daughter and see if she wants it. Then you put it right outside your bedroom door. So when you leave your bedroom, you can just take it with you and ask your daughter. But the point is that you want to have the next actions identified so that the piece of clutter or the email or the paper does not serve as the action reminder itself. Like I'd mentioned before on a podcast, I had a friend who had a light bulb rolling around on her desk. And I said, why do you have a light bulb on your desk? She said, well, it's to remind me I need to go buy light bulbs. Okay, so that object was the reminder. What we would need to do is say, well, what's the next action? I need to go either online or go to a store, and I need to purchase these 40-watt bulbs that look like this. Okay, that's the next action. We don't want to have a bunch of stuff sitting all over our flat surfaces. We want to extract the next actions. Then you can file the emails. You can clean up your closets and drawers. You can put your papers where they belong. And those items are not serving as reminders and calling out to you saying, do something about me, do something about me, right? Okay, now let's talk about establishing the next actions. Once we've extracted them, well, we need to put them on a context-based next actions list. Another thing I learned from David Allen, which has changed my life. I used to write everything down on my calendar, and then if I didn't do it, I would forward it to the next day. If you've ever tried that, you know how incredibly frustrating that is. If you create a weekly context-based next actions list and you organize it by context, which means where you are when you're actually completing the task, then what you can do is you can breathe knowing that those items are waiting for you for when you are in the appropriate place. This is a game changer. So the contexts that David Allen recommends are the ones that I use, where it's home, to discuss, phone, computer, and errands. Now, what I love about that is when I have a next action, like, oh, I need to extract my notes from this conference I attended, I'm going to work on that when I'm at home. So I put that on my home list, extract my conference notes. Or if I'm working right now, one of our things is we're getting our emergency kits ready. I need to have each one of my boys give me a pile of clothes, like shoes, socks, underwear, change of clothes, a jacket or sweatshirt, so we can put them in the backpacks. My daughter already did hers, but I need it from them. And so that's the next action, is to give each of them a little checklist, have them go get it and put them down in the basement next to the backpacks where we're collecting those materials, okay? But when you have that home list or your errands list or a to discuss list, things like that, then when I'm out running errands, I know exactly what I need to do while I'm out. Or when I'm sitting down at the computer, then I can work on those computer tasks. Now, I do keep my personal computer tasks on my next actions list. My professional ones are more embedded with projects, so those are inside of Asana. And we have a lot more on Asana. If you want on that, just go type that in on our search function on our website at learndobecome.com. Now, the other thing I want to note, though, about this context-based next actions list is that you can tailor this to meet your needs. If right now you are home a lot, like I had a friend who was home with a baby often, she had things like home when the baby's awake, home when the baby's asleep, and she put things together in those separate lists. You could say home when I have lots of energy, home when I'm low energy. You could create context that makes sense for your family so that then when you have that moment or those opportunities arise, you've already designated specific tasks to fill those times. This doesn't mean that every time a moment opens up in your life that you jump to your task list. Of course, I don't want that. I spend a lot of time just enjoying being with my family. I take a nap every day. I like to have downtime to just read and be available and to slow down and to have joy in my life. And I want you to have that too. When you have an ideal context-based next actions list, it will support you so you will have more time to relax and sleep and replenish and build relationships. It's just a tool to help you use your time and energy more effectively during those moments when you actually want to get something done. All right, let's talk a little bit more about executing. I have had so many people say, April, I make lists, but I don't do them. Okay, so here's a few principles just to think about that may be helpful. First of all, there has to be open time in your day where you can actually look at a next actions list. The ideal next actions list only has very specific tasks that can be done quickly, 5 to 10 minutes or a quick errand or something like that. Nothing on a next actions list should look overwhelming because these aren't projects or sub-projects. They're very specific, short, quick tasks that feel easy and your heart gets a little lift when you see them, all right? But if you are cramming your day full, where you are scheduled every minute, or you're trying to do, oh, hang on, just one more thing before this, oh, hang on, one more thing, and you're always rushing, then of course you're never going to look on your list. So this is more about the life architecture. How do you establish your life so you're not rushing around all the time? Because that's a really stressful, not so healthy way to live. And you know that if you've been living like that. And I've lived that way before, so I get it too. And it's actually less about what's on your plate, and it's more about how you're choosing to interpret your responsibilities often. There are some cases where I get it. You're like stretched thin and you're in kind of a crisis mode. But what I would recommend is that we establish projects and next actions that will help you get out of crisis mode. There are people and resources to help you with that. So I'll just leave that part there. But we need to actually look at our list, which means they need to feel light and they need to be taking us towards our most important goals. Because if you created a next actions list poorly, that means you have tasks on there you really don't care about, or that really are not appropriate for this time in your life, or you haven't made them next actions. You're looking at projects or sub-projects, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But when you have a simple, short, clear list of next actions that feel exciting to you, and you have buffer, you have space in your life, white space, and then you can look at those lists when you're in the appropriate context, it's going to change your life, and you're going to find that you'll be moving forward and building a momentum you may not have known was possible. let's go ahead and talk about some community tips. I asked our Steps to Everyday Productivity community members. So Step Mastery is the community that has the Facebook group. If you're like, what are you talking about? Come join. Nearly 11,000 people. Actually, we might have crossed the 11,000 mark. We have over 10,000 people in our Facebook group who are amazing. They're like my favorite people. We just have so much fun. And we're doing a deep dive coaching session every Thursday in there right now as part of this party. And the videos will be in there as well as archives, and we're getting all that set up. So if you're not in Step Mastery yet, I really recommend you come in. I would love it. And you can find out more at learndobecome.com/step. That's how you can sign up for our free webinar, learn about the program. It's amazing. So I asked people, hey, what's working for you? And one person said, well, I still have to schedule time to work for my next actions list each day, or they don't get done at all. So I love that there's even like that open space, that buffer. It's a scheduled open space, but I don't care how it happens. If that's what's working, that's fantastic. Because then this person said, other things always take longer and take priority otherwise. Oh, it's not the truth. Okay, so making it a habit to have space to work. Love it. Next person said, utilizing a discussion folder has really worked for me when I'm stuck. My husband and business partner is happy making decisions. It keeps me communicating better with him on stress points and projects before they become problems. So now I handle next actions better myself. And if I'm not able, it goes in to discuss, that discussion list. And usually that reveals next actions for those projects. So if you have someone to bounce ideas off of, whether it's a spouse or a business partner or a best friend or a family member, having a discussion folder on any of those projects or ideas or goals that feel a little unclear, that can be amazing. Eric and I do a weekly meeting. So we had ours yesterday where we actually sit down, we look at our calendar, which right now the calendar is pretty open. There's a lot of routines. And so we talk, okay, what is it we're working on? Or like we're working on things right now, like making sure we have wills in place. So if something happened to us, our children would, be taken care of. Just putting like these basic things in place. We need to talk through some of this. I talked about how I'm learning how to invest. I don't know. I've never learned how to invest before, so we're learning about that. What's the next action on that, right? It's pretty exciting when you can have a very solid to discuss list and you can move forward on that. All right, next person in our group had said, it has been so helpful to be on a roll, even just starting with a small 5-minute action and building up momentum. And she put that in all caps. Love it. That has been a key for me for years to unlock the productivity train. So cute. All right, and then one final comment said, keeping my next actions bite-sized really works for me. I'm still learning it, but it really helps to focus on the doable next action instead of the overwhelm of the whole project. And it feels good to be able to cross something off my list. Oh, that was beautiful. So being able to have a very short, simple list and time to work, it seems like this is something that we're hearing over and over again, right? Love it. Now let's just talk about some questions that were coming in from the community. I'm just going to do a quick Q&A, and then I want you to get going on your next action. So here's a good question that came in. It said, how do you maintain your next actions list? Do you rewrite it constantly as you work from it? Which is a great question, because a next actions list is weekly. And once you've accomplished a next action related to a project, like let's say these emergency kits I'm putting together, once the boys get their clothes in the kits, well, then do I add the next action to my list, or do I wait till my weekly review and add it on there? I mean, that's a good question. So I'll just explain how I do it. Obviously, you can adapt this to meet your needs. I have all of my personal next actions on a paper prioritized task list. It's from Franklin Covey. FranklinPlanner.com is where you can go and get them. I love it. And I have little pictures for home and to discuss and all that on my prioritized task list. And I just put it right into my planner and it moves as a bookmark from day to day. If it's something like, these emergency kits, that's on my projects list, my current projects list for the month. And once I accomplish this next action, if it's towards the end of the week and I think, well, I'm going to be making a new next actions list during my weekly review, then I wouldn't add anything new. I would just say, yeah, I finished it. My goal is to get the whole next actions list done in about a week's time. But in our business, since we are moving rapidly and we have got a whole lot of stuff going on there, which is exciting. But our community is growing by leaps and bounds. We have had more activity than we ever have had before. We've got like 5 people just helping manage all the messages and things coming in. Like, it's amazing. It's just extremely exciting, but there's a lot of projects happening. Now, because things move so rapidly in the business, then I go into Asana, where each project has the next actions listed below, and we just move through them. So I have project time as part of my routines every day. Like right now, I'm recording a podcast because our big project we're working on right now is our step-by-step home organizing party. This is a project for us. It's super exciting. It's got 9 lessons. We have a home base page. People can sign up. They can share it with friends. We're doing a deep dive coaching every Thursday. We have bonuses. It's a big party. We are sending out like more than 1 million emails with this party. Okay. So there's a lot going on with this and it's super exciting. But my next action was to record this podcast. So what I did is I just looked in Asana and said, okay, what are my next steps? And saw that this podcast needed to be recorded. And so today, during my project time, I'm working on it. And I keep my project list super short, even in the business, so I can get things done. So that's generally what I do. If it's on a computer, it's really easy to just see the next actions, and they just, like that Pez dispenser, it just kind of keeps populating. But the paper one is nice because you keep it simple, and I generally move pretty slowly and steadily on my personal projects. All right, another question says, what is the difference between a next action and a sub-project? Okay, I love that. So we know projects are multi-step tasks. Things like I'm going to organize the garage, or I'm going to create a new exercise routine. Okay, those are projects, multiple steps. Now, next actions are very specific. Okay, these are things that do not have 2, 3, 4 sub-steps. The next action is like the smallest piece that you could create, right? So we're boiling it all the way down. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit. I'm just going to explain a project, a sub-project, and a next action, just to give it some context. All right, so one project that we're working on right now at Learn to Become is kind of a general branding redesign. We just created new branding colors and fonts. We wanted to update our homepage. We're changing the style of the quotes we're putting on social media. We changed our podcast featured image. We changed our Facebook featured image. We're changing our YouTube featured image. You know, all the front-facing parts of the company needed a little update, all right? When we were really focusing our homepage, because we used to have a whole lot of different options on there, super confusing. Now it shows exactly what we do. But for this branding redesign, there were, like 8 sub-projects. So like the homepage redesign was a sub-project of the rebrand. But a next action for that homepage redesign was to email Gina to see if she was available for a meeting the following week. She's the one who goes in and edits. We use this visual composer in WordPress, and she knows how to do it. And so we wanted to email her, hey, do you have time for a meeting? Once she said yes, and we got the meeting on the calendar, then our next action was to put together an itemized list of everything we wanted her to edit, create the files that gave her the pictures and the color hex codes and all the things that she needed. So then when we met during the meeting, we just shared screens. She made all the updates right in front of us. It was done in like 3 hours. So we got that sub-project totally done. Now we're still working on getting the Facebook one a little bit more polished and some of these other things, but we were able to get things done really quickly and in a very systematic way because we had it organized by project, sub-projects, and then next actions. And the reason why I like Asana so much is because then we're able to delegate and different people can own different parts and we can add comments and we can upload images and it's pretty amazing. So I love Asana, seriously. And we use the free version right now. It's so good. Okay, let's go to the next question. It says, I struggle to make a list specific enough. Too often, they're really more a multi-step item that languishes on the list. Also, having too many next actions on my list makes me feel overwhelmed. Okay, get that. A couple other comments were like, I need clarity, how to break things down, or I need to think in sub-projects instead of actual next actions, or I tend to think in sub-projects. Okay, slows me down. So this idea of breaking it down and making it specific, it seems like it is kind of hard for people. And so what I recommend is, first of all, recognize that if you do write down sub-projects and you have a hard time with next actions, you're totally not alone. I feel like I'm still working to master this, and I've been doing this for more than 10 years. But what I do is I look at my next actions list, and if there's anything that's just sitting there, then I pause and say, okay, hang on, clearly I'm not working on this. So first of all, what would make this feel easy? Like, okay, one time I wrote dentist appointments on my next actions list. But that actually wasn't my next action. I needed to talk with our children to find out which time of day was going to work for them for the dentist appointments. So instead of a phone call, that was a discussion option. Or I've had clothes for emergency kits written on my next actions list for 2 weeks now. And I realized, hang on a second, I'm not working on it because that's a sub-project. I actually just need to make a little checklist, one for Ethan and one for Spencer, and give them the checklist. That's what I need. So that felt better. It felt easier in my mind. Also, just this podcast even. I wanted to record a podcast about next actions. So I put a question in our Step Mastery Facebook group asking them what's working for you, what questions do you have? And then my next action there was to ask Danielle, who's one of our team members, to go into that Facebook post and compile the top thoughts and the top questions for me, which she did, and that's what I'm working from now. So when you break things down, and also, I reviewed all her questions yesterday. I wrote out some little keywords and ideas. So now as I'm sitting down to record, I'm not like trying to make things up, on the fly. Like I actually did prepare for this podcast. And so I can offer you something that's more valuable and well thought through instead of just getting on and just talking into a microphone, right? Like I don't want to waste your time. I want you to use your time well, and I want to be a force for good in your life to help you to do that. So if a next action is sitting on your list, I would just ask yourself, hey, what would make this feel easy? Okay. But to back up a little bit, sometimes things don't actually belong on your next actions list. So I want you to be aware of that too, because there are so many times that I've looked at my list and thought, you know what, forget it. Why am I doing this? Why am I stressing out about that? And I'll talk about that more in a minute because there was a question that came in on that. Okay, here's another question. I think I need help with my purpose. I can do tons of next actions, but I don't know where I'm going right now. Oh my gosh, does that resonate with you? I read that to Eric last night because he has all these books and all these notebooks and journals that he's been writing out ideas about life architecture. We want to create a program, but it just hasn't been the right time yet. And he said, I have all this stuff I'm ready to use. And I said, hey, let me share this question that came in where she said, hey, I can do next actions. I don't know where I'm going right now. He's like, hang on to that one. That is so good because he wants to be able to talk more about that. And that's, a project that's on our someday list right now. It's not next in line. It's not current, but we haven't forgotten it. It's just now is not the time for every project. And I think that's absolutely essential to be able to acknowledge that. But we did talk about our highest value activities in lesson 3 of this party. So if you want to go back and listen to that one if you haven't yet. But the next actions, the projects that we're choosing, it really depends on our goals. So even if you don't feel like, I can put together my whole life architecture right now, even just figuring out what do you want in the next 3 months? If you were to feel thrilled about your life 3 months from now, what would need to be true? Just answer that question. Don't even think 50 years in the future yet. Just think 3 months in the future. So maybe it's a relationship that either needs to be developed or needs to be changed. Maybe it's a job you really don't like and it's time to figure out something else. But just being able to look and say, okay, if I were to feel thrilled about my life by this date, what would need to be true? That can hopefully help you out. And in Module 8 of our Steps to Everyday Productivity program, we actually have a intro to life architecture. So if you're already in the program, go check out Module 8. Eric and I have a full video in there. We've got some great printouts and we'll get you started, which will be super fun. Another question came in that said, I feel like there are so many priorities. It's hard to whittle it down. You and me both, right? It's super hard. But being a good editor of your life is a skill that you need to develop just like I need to develop. I have the book Essentialism right here in front of me because the next podcast for the party, lesson number 7, is about mastering the art of essentialism. So I'm actually batching these podcasts. So I'm going to record that in a little bit. But when you are looking for a really good book that will help you with that, Essentialism by Greg McKeown is fantastic. Also, we did a deep dive into our lesson 3 podcast that we just did in our Steps to Everyday Productivity community. And a great comment came in saying that you want to identify what has the longest term consequences, which items in your life, which activities are really going to affect things in the long term. So I thought that was a really good way to look at it as well. If you are a prayerful person, this is a great thing to pray about. But what it comes down to is we have to choose. Because if we do not choose what our priority is, we will either accomplish nothing or we'll just be moving in all kinds of directions, accomplishing like random things that aren't going to get us where we ultimately want to go. So yes, there are a lot of options. And I think that's the beauty in the world today, but it's also a challenge in the world today because it's not just one newspaper. There's like so many news outlets you can follow online. There's not just, a finite number of books at your library. There is a Kindle library. There's Overdrive. There's like so many options of things to read. eBooks, so many podcasts. I mean, there's so many things. And so being able to identify who you want to become and what is going to help you to get there, and then making the best choices possible and how to use your energy, it's going to be awesome. Okay, another question said, I struggle to create a list that is practical for low energy. I often make my next actions list when I'm feeling ambitious and motivated, but then need to get things done when motivation drops. Okay, so this is such a great question. So there's clearly going to be a natural ebb and flow. Some days you're going to feel great. Some days you might not have slept well. Some days you might have a hormone shift. Some days something might have come to you, some really bad news. You might have more distortions than other days. Dr. David Burns, who I love, who wrote the book Feeling Good and is amazing, said if you have a couple days a week that are down days, that's pretty normal. If it's more than that, you probably need a little tune-up. And I think that that's really helpful. It's okay to have, a couple down days or whatever. And I had the same problem where I just said, Eric, I make my plans when I'm feeling good, when this version of April is around. But then when the having a hard day version of April is around, it just feels like I was so dumb. Like all my goals were so ridiculous. And whenever I'm in a downward spiral or having a hard day, Eric would say, April, now's not the time to make decisions. But part of me was like, no, I think now is the time for me to make decisions, because this really overwhelmed, stressed out version of me needs to be okay with what's on my list. Because if she's okay with it, I'm talking about myself in third person, then the really energetic person part of me is going to feel great. So I think part of it really, and that's actually what's been helpful for me, is I am creating my project list for the part of me that's least energetic. And then when I have a lot more energy, I feel like a really great overachiever. And so then on my low days, I've got a very doable list and I feel great. And on my high days, I am knocking it out of the park. So I don't know, that's what's helped me. One time I walked in our office and I said, hey, Eric, I should write a post called The 3 Versions of April. And he started laughing uncontrollably. He's like, you think there's only 3? Okay. It made me laugh. I will say that as I've gone through Dr. Wood's program and learned how to recover from trauma, and as I've learned more about distortions, and I've been watching some awesome YouTube videos lately and taking this course on iTunes University about neuroscience and how your brain works and consciousness. Oh my gosh, I'm fascinated by how our brains work. The more I've been learning about that, the less volatility I've had. I feel like I'm a lot more even. I haven't had a meltdown in a long time, which is really good, months. It's been really good. So that's been great. And I don't know if my family notices, but I've noticed. I think they've been actually happy too. Just that when mom's happy, everything else is like going fairly well. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about that. So these things that I'm sharing with you, the programs, the books, these ideas, they actually make a big difference. I think 90% of the time I'm feeling pretty good now. And I think that's great. I'm waking up excited. I've been handling my challenges better. My distortions aren't happening as often. I know when I'm distorting something, which is huge. And then I'm just happier around my family. And then when they're struggling, I'm more understanding. It's been actually amazing. And I think Dr. Wood's program, I did that interview with him. Dr. Wood's program has really changed my brain. And it's even funny because my brain is trying to talk about the change that it has had. How your brain is the only organ that named itself. It's kind of weird to even be able to process it and discuss it. But the fact of the matter is I don't feel as panicked and I don't feel like I'm a victim, really ever. So anyway, hopefully that will be helpful to you. And we'll put links to all these things on the show notes page so you can find it there. Okay, let's move on. This one says, where I get stuck is when some kind of fear is involved. If the project itself, or especially if the next action requires a decision, I don't really know what to do in that situation, then I might procrastinate no matter how I write it down. Okay, so this is so important, and I can relate to this because I read a book by Rick Pitino called Success is a Choice. This was 25 years ago. And I think I was a freshman in college. My sister told me about it. I loved that book so much. And one of the things that he challenged us to do is do something that scares you every day. So I actually do for the most part. Even recording this podcast, it feels scary to me. But I'm here in front of the microphone and I'm doing it because I'm learning you walk towards the fear. And my friend John said, fear is where the magic is. Oh, that's so good, right? So we're walking towards the fear. Just because you're afraid of doing something isn't a reason not to do it. Now, if that project is something that you shouldn't be doing, it's not the right time, we really need to say no to it. Okay, that's a different story. But if you're feeling a little nervous because it's outside your comfort zone, we want to keep doing that. Now, if you just don't know what to do, you're like, oh, this is hard because I don't know what to do. Well, then I don't think you have the next action written down. I think a next action would be something like research this for 10 more minutes online, or talk to so-and-so about this, or journal through it, or do a mood log. The book When Panic Attacks by Dr. David Byrne has awesome template for a mood log and shows you how to do them. Those are so good because sometimes we're projecting things and we're afraid because we're fortune telling or we're mind reading or there's self-blame or all these other things involved. And often that's not the case. Also, you might want to ask yourself, what is that fear? If you give in to the fear, what will that keep you from doing or becoming? I was at a coaching conference at one point, and our coach said, okay, what are you afraid of right now? So I wrote down 5 things and said, if you give in to those fears, what wouldn't happen? And I was like, well, I wouldn't grow, learn, do, become. I would stop podcasting. I wouldn't be able to help pretty much anybody. I wrote down all these things. So then it was really helpful to see, hang on, these fears, yeah, they're hard. It's a challenge. But if I give in to them, I'm basically saying, yeah, I'm not going to step up. I'm not going to be a leader. I'm not going to be a helper. I'm just not even going to put myself out there. And for me, that's not an option. And then I've been taking this coaching, it's an online coaching from Dave Hollis. I don't know if you know I don't remember what the exact URL is, but Rachel and Dave Hollis. So Dave is doing coaching this year, and I've been part of his coaching class, and it's all online. But one of the first lessons he taught was about fears and facing fears. And one of the questions he asked was, think about the worst thing that could happen in this situation. So I was actually writing down my fear. I wrote down what's the worst thing that could happen. I wrote that down. And then he said, okay, let's imagine that did happen. What good could come out of that? And I was like, whoa, that is deep. So I wrote down, okay, if this worst thing happened, well, here's some good things I would learn, or, some benefits. And it wasn't enticing necessarily, but when you look back on your life, don't you notice that so many of the beautiful things you've learned have happened during some of the hardest adversity? Have you ever noticed that? It's pretty amazing. All right, and then another question says, I struggle with decisions. I catch myself dropping projects that require a next action decision, and I struggle with a sense of dread. Okay, this is where I want to talk about timing. It really might not be the right time for the project that you're feeling stressed about. So we want to simplify and get rid of as much as possible. Sometimes it's hard when you really love the project. So a quick story from my life. Eric and I have had this idea to start a membership called Arise. It stands for Anchor, Replenish, Invest, Structure, Expand. Kind of builds on this butterfly project that I've been working on for years. We actually had a date. We were going to launch it. There were a lot of things we're excited about. We have talked to at least 6 coaches, and all of them have said, oh, this makes perfect sense for your business. And it just seemed like it made sense on paper. It made sense in our hearts. It made sense for so many reasons. But whenever I went to work on it, I started feeling sick, like way overwhelmed. And so I kept trying to boil it down and figuring out what the next action should be, or trying to wrap my head around it. Ultimately, I just felt like I need to put it on hold a little longer. And when I talked to Eric about it and we decided to put it on hold, I felt this relief. And it wasn't relief like I was running from my purpose. It wasn't like that. It was relief like I was acknowledging that my purpose right now is to build our STEP program, our Steps to Everyday Productivity, teaching people next actions, how to get organized, how to get the clutter out of their lives. This is our singular focus right now at Learn, Do, Become. And if you go to our homepage, you will see this is what we do. On our social media, this is what we do. Like, we have streamlined everything in our business. So this is what we are working on. And my personal belief is that God guides a moving ship. So when you start to feel kind of sick about something, you stop and reassess, and then you try maybe moving in a little different direction. You see how you feel. And as you keep that motion, but carefully staying in tune to, hey, is this the right thing? How's it feeling? Is it working? Then you'll know. Now, I actually went and asked this question to our STEP community. And I just wanted to know, hey guys, I'm recording about next actions. Has there been a time that you let something go in your life? It might have been hard to do it, but how did you do it? How'd you let go? What did you let go of? So I'm going to share a few stories that they have written into the Facebook group. And I'm super excited for you to get to hear from their voices. All right, this first one is from Rhonda. She said, I wanted to hold on to coaching a Special Olympics equestrian team. I had been with the team for 20 years, volunteer, then assistant coach, then head coach. Okay, so first of all, that's amazing, right? And I knew if I quit, the farm had said they would close the team. Okay, so that's pressure, right? I wanted to keep going for the kids, but my schedule was packed. The last few years weren't the same anyway. We were the only team left in the state, so we no longer had anyone to compete against. We had dwindled from a team of 18 to 6 and had lost most of our volunteers, so it was a headache each week to ensure enough were there for safety. It still meant a lot to the few kids left, but I couldn't keep everything in the air, so I had to close it. Okay, so first of all, whenever I read something like that, I feel Rhonda there, like, oh, it feels like, but this is so good, but it's so helpful. But there were most likely a lot of next actions that were involved in the work that she was doing. And being able to step back and look at the bigger picture. Now, if someone else really wants to get that going, or the team is super excited about it, they can figure it out and recruit a new coach and, make it move forward if there's enough energy behind it. But when you're holding on to something and you're maybe holding it up, and maybe even you're the only one holding it up, and it starts to feel heavier and heavier and heavier, then when you write down your projects and sub-projects and next actions, they're not going to feel light. They're going to feel like a weight. So I love that Rhonda was able to be very wise in what she chose to do. And she'd already volunteered and helped out for 20 years. I mean, it's pretty amazing what she was able to accomplish and then how she was able to be discerning about what she did. Here's another one that came from Kelly. So Kelly had a career as an author. It had been her dream, she said, for over 40 years. She had 6 published novels, 1 novella, and 1 short story. And then she said, I realized I was no longer having fun. Unrelenting deadline pressure, dealing with challenging editorial input, meeting constant promotion expectations had led to intense stress and burnout, a lack of joy, and health issues. Now, there was most likely a period of time when she was an author that was going well for her, enough that she did 6 published novels. So for a period of time, it was working, and that's great. But then there came a time where it was like, hey, this is weighing me down. This isn't healthy for me. This isn't working. So the fact that Kelly was able to make that transition, even though that surprised her fellow authors and her readers and things like that, she said at the end, my biggest takeaway was that letting go of something, even something that meant so much to me, was freeing. I'd lived my dream, but that didn't mean I had to go on living it. I moved on to a new chapter of my life, and I'm a better person for having done so. So I hope that you can feel a lot of encouragement and support from Kelly as she's sharing that. It is pretty amazing as I'm reading through these. They're so good. Here's one more from Darcy. It says, I got halfway through my master's degree program before realizing that my health wasn't the best. I didn't have the time or energy to spend with my husband and daughter when I was home, and my freelance business was not making much money, all because I had homework and research to do that kept me from A, making appointments, and B, having time to do both the work and the research/homework. I also have a metabolic problem that was severely affecting my cognition, so that didn't help with master's work either. I also realized I had no need for the master's degree as there was no career or job I was interested in which required it. So I quit the master's program. I cried as I typed out the email to my professors and the Facebook post to the others in my cohort telling them I wasn't going to continue pursuing my master's. But it's been over a year now since then, and I feel so much better for it. Okay. Just as I'm reading that, I mean, you can tell that these are not easy decisions. The Special Olympics equestrian team, being a published author, going into a master's program. I mean, these are beautiful goals. But what we're hearing is that there's a point where you need to make a decision that's best for your overall life architecture. And so being able to have options, or hey, you could jump back into a program eventually if you wanted to. Just because you stop something now doesn't mean you can't pick it up in the future. Kelly could still write books in the future. Rhonda could still pop back in and do some work with Special Olympics in the future. I mean, we're not putting an end to it, but I just want to emphasize that this podcast is not about learning how to keep moving at a frantic pace. The point of this podcast is to help you to be able to make wise decisions with what earns a spot on your list, and then organize and execute them beautifully. Okay, we're done for today. I hope that this podcast will help you to extract and establish and execute your next actions. I hope that you understand more about how this will work for you, how this can help you to be able to move forward in a great way. I hope that these stories and experiences will help shape you. And as you make decisions, it's going to help you to be more wise in how you're doing it, and that you can feel excited. When you wake up excited and you go to bed content, you know that you've got the right things on your list. So again, if you are brand new here, come sign up at learndobecome.com/party. That's going to give you all of the details with this 9-lesson party. It's really fun. Also on the Party Home Base page, there's a link to our free webinar, the training, if you're thinking, I want to be part of your STEP program because I want to be in the Facebook group with all these awesome people and I want to be contributing and I want to be getting more coaching and I want to be learning. This is what we're doing right now. This is my purpose and my life mission right now. Aside from my family, obviously, the important things I'm doing personally and with God, this is my professional purpose right now, is to help you to get your STEP Command Central built and help you feel amazing. All of these details are on the show notes page. Every episode of Learn, Do, Become Radio, you just go to learndobecome.com/episode and then the number. So this one is /episode 89. We have awesome resources for you. And when you sign up for the party, if you're already signed up for the party, we send things via email. If you want to sign up for the party, you get the bonuses. So we have a really fun bonus that comes with this specific podcast. It's awesome. First of all, we have a simple next actions list template for you. So you could print it and you can use that. And then we have a super fun bonus that takes you deeper into what these next actions are, helping you to be able to really think about what's possible in your life and some fun things that'll make next actions a blast for you. So make sure you've signed up at the party page, okay? All right, have a great day. We will see you soon at learndobecome.com.